Hello and welcome to Lisa Loves, and it's time for episode 2 of my new series, I suppose I'll call it, Lisa Recommends, where I recommend something to you on a weekly basis. Last week it was the podcast, If Podcasts Could Kill. This week I said I'm going to recommend a book to you, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. This book that I'm going to recommend, I actually have done an individual video on that book, which I will link below in the description. But when I did that video, I was just starting out on YouTube. I still don't have a massive, I think I've got like 450 or 460 now. But when I started, I had less than 100, I think, when I did this review. So I just wanted to put this out here again and hopefully get some more ears hearing me this time. This book is, and please, if you're interested, watch that original video. I go into a lot more detail in there, including I actually read some excerpts from the book. So check that out if you're at all interested. Right, so the book is this one. Let me put that up for you. It's called Shards, a short story anthology. That's exactly what it is, it's short stories. This was written by my good friend Chris from the channel what used to be called Two Vloggers More. I just like to say that so people, they'll know that name. They're now called Chris and Toria. It's Chris and his wife. I've been friends with Chris for a long time, never actually physically met one another, but you know, we've been friends online for a long time. Let me say, I do not recommend things that I'm just recommending it because a friend has done it. I will not recommend something that I do not like or I do not enjoy. You can take my word on that. It's just not something I'm not going to recommend crap to you, put it that way. So when I say this is an excellent book, this is an excellent book. Chris does a lot of writing. He has a site called Cinephiliacs, which I occasionally write for when my arse can motivate itself. Something I really want to get into more, back into, is writing, which I used to do a lot more of, but YouTube kind of took over in a way, so we want to cut back the YouTube and get back into the writing a bit. But Chris writes poetry, he writes reviews, he writes short stories, he writes a lot, he's an author. He does have, I will pop lots of links below in the description. He's got an Instagram site, Life of an Author. Just a thoroughly nice, decent, lovely guy, Chris is. Really down to earth and extremely talented to a ridiculous degree. This book was self-published. It's always been my dream to write a book. I never get further than a novella. I just cannot seem to stretch it. But this, he's actually written short stories in here. Let me see if I can tell you how many are in here. Oh, there's loads. I'm not going to try and count that. Loads of short stories in here. So this is, you know, it's quite a little, you know, meaty little book. I read this really quickly. I started a challenge myself this year on Goodreads to read a certain amount of books a year. I seem to have given up halfway through, which is really ridiculous. But this book I read ridiculously fast because I was really enjoying it. Because it's short stories, it's broken down. It's really easy to pick up and put down. I'm not going to give you an example of me picking it up and putting it down. There's all sorts in here. There are stories with a horror element. There is stories with a sci-fi element. We've got sort of fantasy-like element in one of them. There's a comedy type one. And I didn't expect to like that one, but it was one of my favourites. There are more like true to life ones in here that aren't sort of like fantasy or beyond the realms. There's very, very moving stories in here. There's a love story in here. All different types of stories are in this book. And having known Chris for as long as I have, maybe 13 or 14 years, and sort of having an idea about his relationship with his lovely wife, Toria, some of these stories are very obviously inspired by his relationship with his wife. So that was beautiful for me to read. But you do not need to know the person to read this, to enjoy this. I know my friend Kelly has actually purchased this one. It's on a list for her to read. She's got distracted with books that Chris's wife has recommended, quite big sort of like series books that she's reading and really enjoying. I've always said my best buddy Kelly, I know I'm deviating here folks, but my best buddy Kelly in Nottingham and her partner Dave always remind me of Chris and Toria. They just remind me as people of them. They're not exactly like them clearly, but you know, it's like, you know, Kelly and Toria's love for Disney is like second to none that I know. Just the personalities, the humour that they've got, they're very similar people. So Kelly's purchased this book to read, and I'm trusting she will really enjoy it because it's a really good, really easy to read book, very moving book. This book actually made me cry. You'll say, Lisa, you cry at anything. Well, yeah, I probably do, but I'm not going to cry unless there's good reason. This is a quality book. It's really well written, it's really touching. Chris is a fantastic author. He's got a way with words that I have attempted this year, like I said, to read more. And I have struggled because books have not been grabbing me. I get a bit in and I'm thinking, yeah, this isn't bad, but it's not grabbing me. It's not emotionally pulling me in. I'm not interested enough to want to go back to it when I've got a spare moment. For me, when I started to read Sean Hudson, I didn't want to put it down. I was constantly turning the pages. That's my favourite author. But with this book, it was so easy to read, and I knew, like when I finished the story, if I had, like, example, waiting in the doctor's surgery for an appointment, I was able to pick it up and read a story. So you can fit it in around normal life if reading's not something you get a lot of time to do. And I'm one of these people that feel it's really important to support people that in the pursuit of independent movies or smaller authors, self-published, get it bought, get it read, if that person's your friend, and if it's not, do it anyway. This is available on Amazon, as far as I know. It's where I bought it. I will search and put the link in the description if you're at all interested. But I massively recommend it. And Chris is a lovely guy, a really lovely guy. Let me see if I can read you the back to give you an idea. So, to say what I couldn't say. Like a box of lost and found, Shards is a dive into fiction and all its wonderful edges. Tales of life and of death, war and poetry, monsters with fangs and creatures with claws, the weird and the woeful, the realism and the obscure. It is a journey into the back of a brain deep in the tunnels of imagination, where the most unusual and brilliant and terrible ideas are born. I had to stop this twice because the first time my husband flushed the toilet really audibly, and now he's just clattered out the front door really audibly. Honestly, God. So, you got that little bit I read. It says an anthology of 20, so there we go, we've got the amount now. 20 brand new works of short fiction, science fiction, weird abstract fantasy, dystopian, contemporary, horror, war, and more. A love letter to the written word. So there we go. It's actually got a quote on the back from an author called Gareth Wiles, the Comic-Con killer, who's written superb, really makes you think. And it is superb because I've read it, and I'm a person that used to read a lot. I'm a person that loves writing, that loves language, that loves words. It's just something that's got a little lost during the way, but this just, it inspires you if you're in any way love writing, love words, love how words are put together. It's just wonderfully written, and like I say, I will pop links below in the description. Chris puts up little pieces of poetry very, very regularly on YouTube, on Facebook and Instagram, so I will pop links below to his writing site, so you can check that out if you so wish. But if you're in any way interested to know anything more about the book and to hear a couple of little excerpts, I will put a link below to the first video I did about this book. Taking in consideration I hadn't been doing YouTube very long. I know I'm not very great now, but oh, it was painfully awkward at the start. So yeah, I'd love it if you check this out, folks. It would mean a lot to me and mean a lot to Chris. So let me know in the comments if it sounds like something you might enjoy. And check out my new t-shirt, guys. I've got my first, oh, what was that? What was that? I've got 3 from the Grave shirts made. We all wanted our shirts for our show because we love our show very much. And this is the first one that I've had made. I just bought a t-shirt transfer and put it on myself. So yeah, representing. Don't know what that was either. Over and out from Lisa Loves.